All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Nice to see everyone. Please check your cell phones that they are either off or vibrate or on silent. Thank you. Leaving it at home works as well. This week we are studying the fourth Torah portion, the fourth Parashat in our Torah. The Parashat is called Vayera. Vayera means to see. Well, someone saw. What did he see? Okay, let's take a step back before we speak about what he saw. We're speaking about Abraham. Avraham Avinu was commanded at the ripe age of 99 to circumcise himself. Not an easy thing to do. He was told by God to do it himself. The Midrash tells us that while he was doing it to himself, he fainted. Rightfully so, right? God himself came and finished the circumcision for Abraham. This is a fascinating midrash. Abraham was so committed to Hashem, and he did what he could, and then Hashem came and finished it. Although this is not the point or the topic of tonight, but it's just a mini lesson for ourselves. We just got to do whatever we can do. We put in our effort, we try our hardest, Hashem comes and he finishes it off. This is a tremendous lesson we learned from Avraham Avinu, his commitment to putting in the effort and putting in and trying his best. We say the same thing by sports. We are supposed to say the same thing with our children when it comes to school and to anything and everything that we do. We just try our best and we ask Hashem to help us and finish it off. Now, at age 99, we can imagine that Avraham would need to recover, correct? Very good. Just like any baby needs to recover after a circumcision. The Torah, the Talmud, it all tells us that the third day is the most painful day after normally any type of procedure, specifically to a circumcision. And so it was on the third day God wanted to give Abraham a rest. He wanted to let Avraham Avinu recoup and feel better, recover after this circumcision. So you know what he did? He made it a boiling, scorching hot day. Why would that help Avraham? Well, listen to the following. Do you know what his job was? Do you know what he did? He put his tent. I think we said it last week. He put his tent on the equivalent of the I-95. Can you imagine how many people pass by a day on the I-95? Imagine there would be an open tent, and guess what? This tent only has posts. There's no walls. It's open on all four directions. And anyone that comes in, they could eat, drink, and take shade for free. This is what he did. He loved it. He was able to do this. God blessed him with wealth enough to give to people and not charge them. All he told them was, here, take a drink. Here, take something to eat. What? Grab their hand. Before you put it in your mouth, bless the Lord for it. What does that mean? Oh, and that's how he got them. That's how he explained to them. Where do you think this came from? How do you think that this is here? Why do you think you're here? The world you live in. And that's how he got to them through a philosophical belief system back to believing in the one creator. Very, very nice. So can you imagine this is what he was doing all the time? Comes the day, the third day, and he's suffering. He's in pain. He's recovering. Hashem says, I'm going to give you a break. You know how he's going to give him a break? He's going to make it so hot that no one's going to be traveling. And so it was. It was a boiling, scorching hot day. It was something not normal to happen because, as we see based on the verses, this day was actually Pesach. Okay? It was on Passover that Avraham circumcised himself and he had the visit of his three very special guests, as we're going to speak about. How do we know that? The Torah says that he made matzot for them. I don't know about you, but if you serve your guest matzah, if it's not during the 8 days of Passover, that's an insult. It's either you're saying, well, I'm being cheap on you, I'm being stingy on you, I'm not giving you the good bread, or you're alluding to, hey, better get on a diet, have this cracker instead of good bread. Okay? So why would Avraham, who is known for his world-renowned hosting, why would he give crackers, matzot, to his guests? Based on that, our commentaries deduce that it was none other than Pesach. Pesach didn't happen yet. Pesach's happening in 400 years. These are all questions which we're not going to speak about right now. But, having said that, it's not normal to have a scorching, boiling hot day in the Pesach time, in springtime. It's nice, but it's not boiling. Hashem did it specifically. So hot that no one would travel, so Avraham Avinu could recoup. Comes Avraham, he comes outside, and he sees that there's no one coming by. And he's sad. And Hashem comes, can you imagine, to visit Avraham Avinu himself. A special, we all have heard about the concept of Bikur Cholim. Bikur Cholim means going to visit the sick. It's a very, very powerful, very strong mitzvah. It is helpful to the person who is sick. Going and visiting the sick lifts their morale physically, psychologically, and spiritually. You're actually adding towards their healing, and that is why we go to visit those who are sick. We're doing it for them because it helps them. So God came to visit Avraham Avinu. Okay, this is a little bit of the narrative of what's going on. I just want to give us a little bit of an insight on these special guests, and then we're going to get into what the Zera Shimshon asks fascinating questions. There were 3 guests that came to Avraham because Avraham, can you imagine? You have God who comes to visit you, but you're still not happy enough. Why? Because you can't feed God, right? So he's still pressuring. He's like, Hashem, I want to host. I can't go a day in my life without hosting. Because when he hosts, he's able to educate. He's able to bring them closer to Hashem and his Torah. Okay? Hashem finds himself in a predicament, kivyachol, as if. It's too far for me to just have people come and travel. It's too hot. It's the middle of the day already. So Hashem has an idea. Let me send 3 angels. Now, Avraham didn't know that these 3 individuals were angels. Now, this is why the Torah says, Vayera elav Hashem. So God is appearing, is seen to by Avraham. Be'elonei mamre, that's the place where he was camped at. V'hu yoshev petach ha'ohel kechom hayom. He was sitting at the opening of his tent at the boiling hot day, as we just explained what he was doing by there and why it was so hot. Vayisa enav. So he's telling God, God, I need more than this. I need more than you. I need people to bestow blessing, to bestow hospitality upon. He lifts his eyes, Vayisa enav vayar, and he sees Shelosha Nashim nitzavim elav. 3 men coming his way. Oh, what does he do? Vayarotz likratam mipetach ha'oel vayishtachu arza. He runs to them. The guy's 99 years old. He just had a circumcision. We just said the 3rd day is the most painful day, and he's running out of enthusiasm to do a good deed. This is our patriarch. This is our first patriarch. Okay. These 3 angels each have or had a specific purpose. Our commentaries tell us their names. The first one was Michael. The second was Gabriel. And the third one was Raphael. And each of these 3 angels had a specific mission. You're going to ask yourself, well, why 3 angels? Well, they each had a specific mission. The first one, Michael, had the task to come and tell Sarah Imenu, you are 90 years old, 89, you're going to have a baby in a year from now when you're going to be 90 years old. So this was one message that one angel was coming to tell. The second angel, Gabriel, was actually coming to destroy the city of Sodom. Sin City, Las Vegas, however you want to coin the term. But this was Sodom va'amorah, horrible, horrible places. This week, or this class, we're not going to be speaking specifically about Sodom, but it's something well worth it to read up on and learn the tremendous lessons and how evil they were and how we should try not to follow in their ways. This was the second of the angels. The third angel, the angel of Raphael, came to heal Avraham Avinu from his circumcision. So that's why we have 3. By the way, this third angel actually was the angel who, after he came to heal Avraham from his circumcision, he went on to Sodom to save Lot. Okay? And he's able to do both, even though an angel is only allowed to do one mission, because healing and saving is a similar task. So he came to heal Avraham, and then he went to go save Lot. These are the 3. I just read something fascinating last night for the first time, and it's a midrash. The midrash tells us that these 3 angels, which by the way, Abraham did not know they were angels, because then he wouldn't have been sufficed with having angels come. God, angels, they don't need the food, right? So he didn't know. They actually each looked different. Okay? One of them was a sailor, looked like a sailor. Another one was dressed as an Arab, as a how do we say, someone who travels in the deserts. Bedouin, maybe that's a good one. Very good. A what? Nomad. A nomad, a Bedouin, very good. And the third was one who sold produce. Food, fruits, vegetables. 3. So the Midrash says, you know why they each looked or appeared different to Avraham Avinu? It's because to come and teach Avraham a lesson, and to come to teach his children a lesson forevermore. The world has 3 different dimensions to it. It has the water, the oceans. It has the midbar, the desert, the wasteland. And then it has the inhabited land. Hashem was sending these 3 angels, who are also the 3 angels who govern and who assist those 3 different dimensions of the world, to come to Avraham Avinu and to bless him, to have a child the following year. Alluding to that the whole world, as the Talmud says, that the whole world was created in the merit of Avraham and his children, recognizing, finding God, and committing to Hashem and the Torah's way, lifestyle to live one's life. So this is why, I never heard this before. Has anyone ever heard this before? Dressed and looked like 3 different types of angels. So this is exactly what was taking place. Having said this, now let's turn to the Zera Shimshon, which is what we're all here to listen to, his great Torah, along with his Segula. He says as follows. Number 1, why is the Torah telling us, because it's very evident, why is the Torah telling us that God came to visit Abraham? Let's take a second. Who circumcised themselves during this period of time? Abraham, and then he went on to do his son Ishmael. You know how old he was? 13, very good. And then he did all of Bnei Beto, all of the males of his household, no matter how old they were, and any of the people who wanted to convert to monotheism and to be part of Abraham's tribe. He went to circumcise dozens and dozens, maybe even hundreds of people. But, you know what the Torah says? God comes to visit Abraham, to come bikur cholim, visiting only the sick Avraham. What, everyone else didn't need to be healed? That's a good question, no? Again, only Avraham? Why is Hashem only coming to visit Avraham? He has to visit all these other people who are suffering and are in pain as well. That's the first question. Second question, the Zera Shimshon asks, is how do our commentaries, the Talmud, Rashi, how do they all know that it was the 3rd day from the circumcision? Why wasn't it the 1st day, the 2nd day? Just because you say it's the day that's the hardest and it hurts the most, so that's the day Hashem came? Couldn't it be the 4th or 5th, 1st, 2nd? Why specific, or how does our oral Torah take for granted that it was the 3rd day of Abraham's circumcision that God comes to visit him? Listen to a fascinating answer that Zera Shimshon provides us. It says as follows. The Talmud in Masechet Baba Kama teaches us in the name of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Is anyone familiar with Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai? He is not only a Talmudic sage, he is the great author of the Zohar, which is the blueprint to all Jewish mysticism and the Kabbalistic teachings on a deeper level of the world and the universe and the human body that we live in. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai tells us something amazing. And again, the Talmud is not a mysterious, well, it is in some aspects a mysterious book, but compared to the Zohar, it's way more straightforward. So he says in the Talmud that Abraham had a special gem, he had a special stone that he wore around his neck. Listen to this. This is the Talmud. This is like black on white. This is not even Zera Shimshon. This is no major novelty. This is black on white in the Talmud. Abraham had a stone that he wore around his neck. This stone had a special power that anyone who would look at this stone would immediately be healed from whatever illness or sickness they have. Fascinating, no? So you're going to roll your eyes and say, come on, Rabbi, maybe in the Talmudic times, I don't believe in these stuff. We've had other times where we've learned about where modern science and even different holistic teachings of the modern and, what's the word I'm looking for? You want to say, help me.
Modern day.
No, but holistic medicine, let's put it that way. That holistic medicine believes in different gems giving different and special powers or healing properties to the person who touches it, holds it, wears it, even sees it. Okay? I remember as a child, my grandfather, should he live and be well, he one time was very excited about this. He came into the house and he came to my father and my uncles and my brothers and all of us, we think we're pretty macho, and he lifted his hands like this and he's like, push my hands down. And we were able to all push his hands down. Then he grabbed something, I don't know what he had in his hand. He grabbed some type of stone, he put his hand out, and we couldn't push it down. My father, who was much stronger than my grandfather, 2 hands couldn't push his hand down. And then he said, it's because of this stone. No, stop it.
Some kind of crystal.
So, we're going to leave you at home. We're going to leave you at home next time. So, the Talmud says that Abraham had this very special gem. It was a one-of. Okay? Based on that, what should have happened? Well, everyone after the circumcision should have looked at this gem and been healed right away. Doesn't that make sense? That's exactly what happened. Except for one person, as Shimshon says. One person didn't want to look at it. One person didn't want an easy way out. Guess who that was? Abraham himself. This was the very gem that he had, that he was world-renowned for. People used to come to him for a blessing to be healed, and he would again try to stick them with monotheism, one God, Jewish philosophy, moral and ethics.
He worked for Chabad.
Chabad works for him. This is exactly what he was and what he did. He takes off that gem and he says, now I'm going to circumcise myself. The rest of the household members, the rest of the family, the rest of the friends, anyone who's circumcised, go, you could look at it. No problem. And that's exactly what happened. Even Ishmael, at 13 years old, which is still very, very painful, had the circumcision, and he looked at it, and he was healed right away. And all of the rest of Abraham's tribe and household. Abraham was the only one who didn't. Why wouldn't he? Because again, he was not looking for the easy way out. Can you imagine if word comes out and Abraham, the 99-year-old, is gone so crazy, not only does he believe in one God, not only did he survive miraculously some fiery furnace, he ran away from home, he went to a place of famine, he's got trouble after trouble. Now, this cuckoo guy is deciding to circumcise himself at 99 years old. What are you going to say? It's not so cuckoo, because he's got that gem. He knows he'll be healed right away. So what? So Abraham didn't want anyone to think that the only reason why he's following God's commandment to circumcise was because he has an easy way out. Therefore, he did not circumcise himself. This is the answer to the first question of why did God only come and visit Abraham? Because he was the only one who needed a refuah shlema, who needed to be healed, who needed a sick visiting or someone to come visit him as being the sick person. Now look at the second question. How does our commentaries, how does our old Torah know that it was the third day of his suffering, of his pain? Okay? If Hashem would have come to him on the first or second day and he would have been healed, well then everyone would have said, yeah, he probably just looked at the gem then. But since the third day is the most suffering, it hurts the most, that's when people will really believe and understand that God himself came to Avraham Avinu. And if it would have been on the fourth or fifth day, well then we could have said, well, The height of the pain is already on a descent, and that's why he's being healed. It's not because Hashem came. And that's how the Zera Shimshon proves that all of our commentaries agree that this was the third day since his circumcision, because by Hashem coming on the third day, it proved the point. It proved the point that Avraham Avinu was there to do something for the sake of God and not looking for an easy way out. Hashem, midah keneged midah, measure for measure, was going to come himself to come and visit Avraham Avinu. Again, we see over here a commitment of Avraham to God, to his decision that he made to stay strong with the belief system that he received through prophecy from God after discovering him, being the first one to discover God on his own. This is the first part, and we're going to tie in a lesson from this once we get to the end. We're going to see a reoccurring theme of Abraham's commitment. Just to take a little break on the topic, we're going to go to another topic, and then we're going to come back to it. This is the order of the book that we are reading. Again, anyone who would like to follow along, prepare the class, review the class. This year we're learning based on this English edition of the Zera Shimshon. I spoke to the author again last night. We now converse, I guess, on a weekly basis on different topics. Again, not to the Zera Shimshon, but to the English author, right? Alevai, one day we'll have a weekly conversation with the Zera Shimshon. But the young fellow, the nice gentleman, rabbi that lives in Lakewood, New Jersey, we speak now on a weekly basis, just touching base on some nuances in the learning of the Zera Shimshon. Moving on to the second of the three Dvar Torahs that we're going to learn this evening. Avraham finds himself now very eager to prepare for these guests. Again, he does not know that they are angels. Okay. He goes, and the Torah says he goes great lengths. He tells everybody to prepare. He tells his wife, start baking. He goes, he slaughters an animal. Again, he's still in pain. He's still on the third day of his circumcision. And he prepares a lavish meal, a delicacy of mustard seeds and tongue and the cream of the milk. Again, he knew that they were not Jewish, although Judaism wasn't invented yet, but he knew that they were either Bedouins or travelers, and they were able to have meat and milk. So he gave them literally a lavish meal full of delicacies. Now, at this point, the Rashi tells us that the angels, and he quotes the Talmud, the angels ate, they put the food in their mouths, but they didn't really eat it. Rather, there was fire in their bodies. Again, they're angels, right? They're angelic beings. There's fire in their bodies that consumed the food, but they didn't really eat it. Where does that come from? Look, this is Rashi. Any chumash, anyone's holding one of these chumashes, it says it here black on white. Okay? These are things that people may not know. The angels are sitting there. They look like they're eating, but the fire within them is consuming the food just to make Avraham think and look like they're actually eating. Okay, where does this concept come from? The Talmud tells us something fascinating. When did the reverse happen? There was once a human who went up to where there are angels. Who knows that? Who's that? Very good. Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses. Moses goes up 3 times for how long each time? 40 days and 40 nights. The Talmud tells us when he went up, he did not eat or drink or sleep. Why not? Because he said, I am now going to resort to the custom of the place. In Hebrew we call it the minhag hamakom. And since in the sky, in the heavens, amongst angelic beings, they don't eat or drink, so won't I. And that's how Moses actually survived 40 days and 40 nights. We know it's a tremendous miracle. Now the angels, this is previously obviously, the angels come down to visit Avraham. They say, well, we need to act like human beings. We look like human beings. This was our task. So they went on to eat and drink. Okay? But, according to the Talmud, they only made it look like they were eating and drinking. They didn't actually eat or drink. Okay? On this piece of Talmud, I'm going to get a little intricate now, but you're going to see it's something very nice. On this piece of the Talmud, there's Tosafot. Tosafot is a commentary, a medieval commentary on the Talmud. A what?
Extras.
Extras, Tosafot, very good, extras. And he says, by the way, this opinion of the Talmud, this opinion of my grandfather Rashi, that they only made it look like they were eating, but it was really getting burnt up in them, is one opinion. But there's another opinion from a sefer, a book called the Seder Eliyahu Rabbah, it's another midrash, that says that they actually ate what they were served. So we have now two opinions. One opinion that they made it look like they were eating, and the other opinion that these angels actually ate. And then the Tosafot ends off and says, this opinion argues with the previous opinion. Now, anyone who's ever learned Talmud, or any of the Talmudic commentaries, understands that every single word is calculated. They weren't there to just fill up volumes and volumes and volumes. It's all shorthanded. One word, one line means a lot more than just the words that you are reading. There's a lot more into them. There's reading between the lines. The Zera Shimshon says, what was this commentary, Tosafot, thinking by telling us that this second opinion argues with the first opinion? It's obvious. One opinion says it looked like they were eating. The other opinion says that they were actually eating. The Zera Shimshon is scratching his head saying, what's new over here? What's special? Okay, the sky's blue. Are you trying to tell me something about the sky blue? Okay. Listen to what he says. He says, it must be that there is another underlying disagreement or difference besides for if these angels actually ate or made it look like they ate. And he says as follows. In the tractate, the volume of Pesachim in the Talmud, says in the Mishnah on page 50 that when a person is in another city, they are to adapt the customs of that city. Whatever the custom is, as long as the custom is not breaking the Torah law, you adapt the custom. Meaning, not like in Sodom, that they were not hospitable to anybody, they didn't help anybody. God forbid, a person came over, they were too short for their bed, they would stretch them. They were too long for the bed, they'd cut their feet. Chas v'shalom. It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Okay? Not those type of customs. Good customs that make sense, that fall in with the line of what the Torah and what Hashem asks from us. A person is obligated to follow the customs of the place. Again, that's called minhag hamakom. On that, our commentaries teach us, you know why that is so? It's in order to avoid strife. In order to avoid machloket. And this is why you have to do as everyone else does. Okay? The Zera Shimshon says that would make sense, and that makes sense according to the opinion of the Talmud that the angels ate the food, but only made it look like they were eating it, not really eating it. Why? Because there's a difference. If you're telling me that the reason why you have to do or follow the custom of the place you're in is in order to avoid strife, well, that means that if you're doing something in private, you could do it according to your own tradition. Right? If the whole point of making sure you falling in with everyone else's custom is so not to cause any strife or any discord, so when you do something private at home, you could do it according to your own tradition. Look how the Zera Shimshon says. When the food enters, we're good? All right. That's first, second, third strike, right? You good? Okay. When the food enters the angels' mouths, does anyone see what goes on with that food? No. Does anyone know if they're actually consuming it and digesting it, or if it's being burnt up by fire? No one knows. And for that reason, the Zera Shimshon says, this is where the basis of their difference of opinions lies. Are you obligated to fulfill the custom of the place, even in private, or is it only out in public? According to the Talmud, only in public do you need to follow the custom of everybody in order not to cause strife or discord. However, according to the Seder Eliyahu Rabbah, that's Midrash that Tosafot brought, it's even in private. And that's why he says the angels not only put the food in their mouth, they completely chewed it and swallowed it. Now, when it comes to halacha, the basic halacha is you follow the custom, the minhag of wherever you find yourself. Okay? Nowadays, it's very hard to decipher, well, what's the custom? Is the custom Sephardic? Is the custom Ashkenaz? Is the custom Hasidic? Is the custom Litvish? Is what customs are there nowadays? So we say now that really everyone follows their own family custom because The world is so mixed around, and you have people from all different countries and all different backgrounds living in different places. But in yesteryear, it was not like that. You immigrated to a place, and you took on those very customs. What we see from this piece, what we see from this discrepancy, like, who cares? Did the angels eat it? Really? Or did they make it look like they ate it, and then the fire consumed it? Who cares about that? No. There's a sensitivity the Torah is teaching us. There's a sensitivity the Talmud and the commentaries are teaching us. That a person has to really try to fit in with their environment in order not to cause strife, not to cause a disaccord. Because the whole purpose is shalom and peace. The whole purpose is getting along with one another. It's not coming and impressing your ideologies and your customs on someone else. It's rather just going with the flow. Again, it's not like falling into what everyone else does if they're doing the wrong thing. No. It's, well, do you do a certain mitzvah this way or do you do it that way? But as long as they're two valid opinions, well, then why have strife and why cause any difference amongst it or because of it? And this is the sensitivity that even the angels, even the commentaries, and how did the angels fulfill the eating of Abraham's meal? They're going into, is it even when you are in private, or is it only when you are out in public? But everyone agrees that when you're in public, you try to blend in and fit in with the rest. You sometimes meet certain people that they need to impress their ideologies and their traditions on others. It's like they have to call you out on it, they have to teach you about it. There's some people who just like sharing, but there's other people who like forcing and like causing friction for no reason. That's something that the Torah does not want. That's something that God does not want from you. Okay? That is the second Dvar Torah for this evening. The third, which is, like I like to say, a question that you'll ask most people and they won't know. Don't you love those questions? You're going to be able to go home this weekend and you're going to be able to sit around the Shabbat table and say, do you know da-da-da-da-da-da? Or how would you say X, Y, and Z? And no one knows the answer. Okay? This question, no one is going to know the answer for. Okay? Get ready. The first one, maybe, that's just the prelude. It's like the teaser question. Some will know because the Torah says it straight out. But the answer to the main question, I can guarantee you, unless someone read it in the Zera Shimshon, they do not know this answer. You can ask the biggest of rabbis even. Okay? Get ready. Okay? God, as we know, gives Abraham 10 tests. Okay? These tests were unique in each their own way. Our different commentaries, the Rambam, the Maimonides, Rashi, the Rabbeinu Ovadia Bartenura, amongst others, all count out what each of these tests were. And they have a little bit of discrepancies between them, but they can all agree on what the last test of Abraham was. Can someone help me? What was Abraham's last test? Very good. Coming and, slaughtering, bringing his own son, his chosen son, the son that he loved most, as a sacrifice to God. Take a pause now, okay? What ideology, what philosophy did Abraham come from? He came from an idolatrous philosophy. He came from an ideology that does sacrifice human beings. Can you imagine? You're now going on a couple decades of pulling away from that evil and crooked past. And everything's already seeming a little weird, but it's at least different. Okay, no one's circumcised. No one picks up from home and moves to another land. No one throws away all their idols. No one did all these things. But now the final test that God is asking of Abraham is to do what he was told to go away from. That was a major breakthrough for Abraham. Am I doing this based on logic, or am I doing this based on belief? Because if I'm doing this based on logic, that can't be my test. But if I'm doing this based on belief, then no matter what God tells me to do, it makes sense. even though it doesn't, but it does. And doesn't, and does, and doesn't, and does. But you have to just believe in him. So is it trust and belief, or is it logic? Okay? We can all ask ourselves, well, what's the point of God testing Abraham? Give him one test. Why 10 tests? Does God even need a test, Avraham Avinu? Doesn't God know that he would have passed all 10 tests just like he did? It's a good question, no? So let me give you an example. When you have a medical student in medical school learning the material, the professor looks at the student while they're teaching, and it looks like they're really understanding, they're getting it. Okay? In the professor's mind, okay, you'll send them for internship and they'll be a great doctor. But no, they're tested. Who are they tested for? Are they tested for the teacher? Are they tested for the system? Or are they tested for themselves? And that is the true meaning of a test. The true meaning of a test is a test to know yourself, where you stand. Honestly, the professor, although maybe they might enjoy teaching a class full of straight A's or whatever it is, or on purpose failing some, whatever the case is, but the only person the test really matters for is the one taking it. Because that now reveals to them, do they know the material? Have they passed the test, literally? The same is for Avraham. Believe it or not, all 10 of these tests were not for Hashem. He was the professor. The tests were for Avraham and his descendants. Avraham was proving it to himself, that he could withstand, and that he did have 100% conviction, trust, and belief in the Almighty. And this is why he was tested with 10 tests. All different dimensions, all different scenarios, to see how truly committed he really was to God and to this new way of life. Having said that, the Torah tells us how old. Well, the Torah doesn't tell us exactly how old, but we can make a reference through the different calculation of ages how old Isaac was when it was the time for him to be brought for this 10th test, for the Akedat Yitzchak. How old was he? 37. This is something most of us know. How do we know it? Well, our commentaries tell us. Okay, don't beat me up on this. Next week we'll speak about it. But Isaac was 40 years old when he got married. Okay, his wife was how old when she got married? Rivka? 3. Okay, let's speak about that next week. That's next week's topic. Don't ask why or how or whatever. Okay. Right after the story of the Akedat Yitzchak, of Isaac being brought up by his father to be sacrificed, the Torah tells us that Mr. Betuel has a daughter named Rivka. So if Rivka is 3 years old when Isaac is 40, minus 3 years, at Akedat Yitzchak, Isaac must have been 37. Good? This many people know. Listen to a bomb question. Okay? This is the question I can guarantee you no one you know knows this answer. Okay? Except for Ron. Ron, raise your hand. B. Okay, listen to the following question. Why, in God's right mind, would he wait till Isaac is the ripe age of 37 to command his father Abraham to bring him as a sacrifice? Why 37? Why not bar mitzvah? Why not 2, 3 years old? 18, 20, 21. Okay, if you want to go high, so go to 50, go to 100. Why specific 37? Let's see if anyone has an answer.
Maybe waited for Rivka to be born.
Oh, very good. It's part of it. It's very part of it. Very good. Very good. Okay, we have a scholar in the room, and if I have to travel out of town, we know Aviva, you'll be able to give the Thursday night Zera Shimshon class. Okay, that's the big part of the answer. That is a big part of the answer. Okay, But the question is intensified with the following. Okay? If we look at, I'm going to open up the verse. It's in chapter 22, verse 1. It says as follows. The verse says, Vayhi achar hadevarim ha'ele. And behold, after these things that just happened, V'ha'elokim nisat Avraham, and now God comes to test Abraham. Vayomer elav Avraham, vayomer hineni. He comes to Abraham, he says, Abraham, where are you? I'm here. I'm like a soldier, ready to do my duty. And then he goes and he tells him, take your son, take him, bring him up, take him to sacrifice. That's the whole thing that we read, that we actually read every morning, starting off Shacharit, and it's the Torah reading, none other than the second day of Rosh Hashanah. And we'll explain why. At this point, the commentaries ask, whenever you say, and behold, it's after the whatever just happened, well, we want to know, well, what just happened? Okay, turn back. What happened over here a little previous, as the commentaries tell us, is that Isaac turns 2 years old. And Abraham does a massive birthday party for him. Sounds nice, right? Can you imagine our patriarch, Abraham, making a birthday party, a 2-year-old birthday party for his son Isaac? Why was he making a party? Because now Isaac was independent. For the first 2 years of his life, he was nursing from his mother. After those 2 years, he now weaned off her and he was independent. So that's when Abraham made a grand birthday party for him. And he invited all of his royal friends and important people from all over. Very good. The Satan, the evil inclination, comes to God and says, God, look at this. This is the most lavish meal I've seen since the creation of the world. So many people, so great food. The host is an amazing person, as you say, Abraham. I got a question for you, God. How is it that he didn't even bring one sacrifice to you, God? Not one animal, not one bird, nothing. He was only feeding people and indulging, nothing for you, God. So look what God answers the Satan. He answers him in saying, if I would ask my beloved Abraham to sacrifice his own son, he would do so. The Satan says, I'm taking you up on that. And that's what the Torah says, Vayhi achar hadevarim ha'ele, and behold, after what just occurred, this conversation that occurred between the Satan and God. And that's why, right now, Avraham Avinu is taking Isaac. So comes the Shimshon and says, well, what happened over here? From 2 years old to 37, we got a 35-year gap. So someone's at fault over here. Either God procrastinated in bringing about this test to Abraham, or the Satan was sleeping at the wheel and waited to bring this claim up to God. Someone was at fault, or something doesn't make sense, as Shimshon says. Listen to an amazing answer. I'm going to first give the Zer Shimshon's 2 second answers because they're not as powerful as his first one. Because I want to end off very strong with his main answer. Okay? He says, take a guess. Go to the beginning of our Torah, right at the beginning, and count 37 times God's name. Okay? You'll have Elokim, 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 which we know is God's name of judgment. Okay? In the first chapter of Genesis, you have God's name of Elokim 32 times. You do not have Hashem's name of mercy, not even once. Okay? Continue on into the second chapter. You count 33, 34, 35, 36. 36 is the first time in our Torah that we find God's name of mercy. And then the 37th name of God is back to Elokim, God's name of judgment, of din. Comes Zer Shimshon and says, Isaac. Okay? Yitzchak Avinu. What did he personify? What was his character trait? His character trait was din, judgment. Before it came to balance that, he was fully chesed, fully compassion and loving kindness. And Yaakov Avinu came and he meshed the two. But that is who Isaac was. Comes Zera Shimshon and says, 37, you know why 37 years old? Corresponding to the 37 times that God's name is mentioned from the beginning of the Torah. You know what precedes that 37th name, which is a name of judgment? Rachamim, compassion, mercy. Mercy precedes the 37th name of God, which means as follows. Hashem asked Abraham to sacrifice his son. Did Abraham sacrifice his son in the end? No! The angel came and told him stop. The angel had to come twice back to tell him stop because Abraham thought he was hallucinating, that maybe the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination, was trying to withhold him from doing his task. He never sacrificed Isaac. However, God considers as if he sacrificed and burnt Isaac as an offering, and that his remnants of the ashes are actually there on that altar. We actually say this every morning after we read the portion of the Akedat Yitzchak. And I'll quote, we say as follows, Ki'ilu efrot savur umunach al gabei hamizbeach. We say in our prayers, after we read this Torah portion in the morning, Hashem, please bless us, show us favor, compassion, and mercy, and look at the ashes on the altar as if those ashes are there. Our sages teach us that those ashes are considered to really be there even though Abraham never did it, which is compassion, which is mercy. The Zera Shimshon, one of his answers is that Hashem waited till Isaac was 37 years old in order to allude to, go back to the beginning of the Torah. Where do we see God's first name of compassion? Right before number 37, and that's why till 37. Okay? It's more of an esoteric answer. It's a little stretch. That's why I'm saving. Wait for the last one. Okay? I'll give you one more quasi stretch that the Zera Shimshon brings down before I gave you his main answer. He says as follows. The Zohar in Parashat Yitro, which is the Torah portion that the Jewish people received the Torah, speaks about the amazing aspects of the tablets, of the Torah as it was being given to the Jewish people. The tablets were very heavy, very spectacular. They were like laser cut through and through, that you were able to see through where the letters were etched in, and the person who was standing on one side read it regular from right to left in Hebrew, and the person looking at it at the exact same time on the other side was able to read it also from right to left as it was perfect both sides. Okay? That the mem was floating, right? How do you have a letter that's a circle with the middle part not being empty? It actually floated. That little piece of stone floated in the tablets. Okay? All these amazing things. The Zohar also tells us that God wrote the Torah with black fire on white fire. You've heard this before? Yes, you probably have. Most of you have. Okay? Black fire alludes to din, alludes to harsh judgment. And the white fire is more, white is more merciful, more compassionate. The Talmud tells us, okay, listen, it's a little bit of a stretch, but watch how he connects this. The Talmud tells us that the world was created. Sorry, I take it back. The Torah was given to the Jewish people, that the Torah was given to the Jewish people in merit of the children who would speak the words of Torah. The literal words that the Talmud uses is Hevel Tinokot Shel Bet Rabban. Hevel means breath. Hevel means the voice of the children. If you take the letters Hevel, Hey, and Bet, and Lamed, you get 37. Alluding to, okay? Now you're going to say, what's the connection? Okay? Alluding to that the whole reason why the Torah was given was because so that the holy and pure children will one day learn it and will one day share it. But the Torah, which was originally supposed to be only deen, only judgment and hardship, was written on white fire, which is compassion and mercy. Again, alluding back to the whole concept of the Akedat Yitzchak, of the sacrifice of Isaac that Abraham was there to do, which is again to turn Hashem's judgment into mercy and compassion. Okay? Now, let's go to what I think is the greatest answer that he gives. Listen to the following. Again, the question is, why did God wait till Abraham's son Isaac was 37 to come and command him to sacrifice him? Listen to this. The Talmud in the beginning of Masechet Nida tells us that 40 days prior to the creation of a fetus, there is a bat kol, a heavenly voice that goes out and says that bat ploni le ploni, the daughter of Mr. So-and-so is going to marry this individual. The Tosafot, the commentary on that Gemara, tells us that this happens only for the boys. Okay? A boy that is conceived 40 days prior to that is when this heavenly voice comes out and says, the daughter of Mr. So-and-so is going to marry this boy. Okay? The Zera Shimshon says as follows. This is something which is quite known. I'm sure you've heard about this. This is the whole idea of having a zivug and having your right shidduch, that it's already predestined and preset. We just need to fulfill our potential and our purpose in life to get to that. Okay. The Zera Shimshon takes for granted something I would have not, but he says it. Look how amazing this is. The Zera Shimshon says, if there was a heavenly voice 40 days prior to Isaac's birth, what was that heavenly voice? It was that Bat Betuel, the daughter of Betuel, is going to marry this boy. If that happened as a heavenly voice, Abraham being a prophet, he for sure knew about it. Okay? He's taking for granted that Abraham knew 40 days before Isaac got pregnant, he heard this voice of Bat Betuel, the daughter of Betuel, is going to marry this boy. Okay? Having said that, now Abraham knows his son is going to marry specifically the daughter of Betuel. Until now, and for 37 years, Abraham knows Betuel does not have a daughter yet. Okay? Now what would happen if God comes to Abraham and tells him, go and sacrifice your son? You know what Abraham's going to think? It's kind of like that gem idea. Well, what's the point? Let me go. Of course I'm going to go. God's going to for sure stop me beforehand because my son has to marry the daughter of Betuel. That didn't happen yet. Right? Kind of like the whole gem thing. So that's why he put the gem aside. So you know what God was doing, says the Zera Shimshon? God was making this test as real as possible. Even though Abraham heard the fact that his son is going to marry the daughter of Betuel, but Betuel never gave birth to a daughter yet. So the Zera Shimshon says the furthest point away from when Isaac was born would have been the greatest test to test him to sacrifice his son. Or look at it the opposite way. The closest point right before Yitzchak's zivug, Yitzchak's match, the daughter of Betuel is born, would be the hardest test for Abraham, because the longer he waits, the more he says, well, maybe that heavenly voice is disqualified. Maybe that heavenly voice is not coming true. And for this reason, the Zera Shimshon proves that Abraham was commanded at the latest possible moment before Rivka was born to sacrifice his son. You know why? To make it a real test. To make it a test that's a real test. Right? It's not a test. If I tell you, let me see if you can bench press this clear case. Of course you could. You could curl this all day long. Is that a test? No. Are you going to gain from it? No. You might develop tendonitis or something, right? A real test is something that you need to put effort into. Hashem says, you know I'm going to make it the biggest effort? I'm going to delay it till as soon or as close as before Rivka was born. You know what the Zera Shimshon proves, how he proves this? He says as soon as Abraham and Isaac come down from the mountain, They come home. What's the first news? Not fake news. No CNN, none of that stuff. The first real news is that besides for his wife passing away, that Betuel has a baby girl. This is a Zera Shimshon's proof that Hashem was delaying as much as possible to make the test as real as possible for this whole test of sacrificing his son. The lesson we learn. Okay, so is everyone very clear on the answer? We said a lot of things, but the answer is in order to make it a real test, Hashem had to wait till Yitzchak was as old as possible, to the last possible moment, till his zivug, till his match made in heaven was born. And that's a very simple math. 40 minus 3 is 37. That's why Hashem had to wait till he was 37. Okay, it's because it's a very good question. As a conclusion, as a lesson from, I want to say, the first concept we said about that special gem, as well as this concept of Hashem making it a real test for Avraham, Avraham was not looking for any shortcuts. And Hashem was not looking to give Avraham any shortcut either. Hashem was really, really looking to see if this individual is committed. And guess what? He passed the test. His commitment is something that we, as his descendants, are able to tap into. Anything that our forefathers, any ancestor, but specific to our forefathers, Abraham, respective, and Isaac and Jacob, each respectively, anything that they excelled in, anything that they conquered, anything that they passed as a test, we have as their descendants mere access to jump ahead to those heights. We sometimes find ourselves having commitment issues, having issues of knowing what the right thing is, but then actually doing what the right thing is. This is something that our forefather Abraham excelled in. He passed this test in flying colors. He did great. This is something that we are able to tap into as his descendants. We should not look for we should not look for the easy way out, but we should not look to pain ourselves at the same time. We have to find this medium of when we're going through something in life, of not complaining about it, looking for a solution, but growing with the struggle. Growing with it because we know there's a purpose. You know why there's a purpose? Because Hashem is sending it there for you. Hashem tests us also. We don't have these grand tests like Abraham did. We wouldn't be able to withstand the 10 tests that Hashem gave to Avraham Avinu. Hashem only gives you a test that you can succeed, that you can pass with flying colors. But just like any test that any teacher, any professor gives, not everyone passes. It's up to us to tap into that commitment that Avraham Avinu had and be committed to Hashem. If we think too much with our logic, then everything's illogical. You take it all, you put it away. But as soon as you commit to what we are taught and what Hashem gave us with belief and conviction, trust, then we're able to pass those tests. So it would be a futile blessing for me to bless you to have no tests, because that's not possible. But you know what the blessing that we'll give in the name of the Zera Shimshon for tonight and for this week is that let us recognize our tests. Let us recognize that these tests are coming from Hashem and that they're here for us to grow. And that we should focus on them and be committed to them, committed to the growth that they provide, making us better people. A better spouse, a better child, a better parent, a better human being, and most of all, a better Jew. Have a great night, everyone, and thank you for coming. Just turn this off.